So I'm sure that individuals like Vaping Miniman of the NVR network is wondering whatever happened to this potential flavor ban that Dr. Farsalinos jumped onto, and we all commented during, or not all, but a lot of us got into it. Jay Hayes, Mike Vapes, and others got into this whole thing with this potential flavor ban back in, I believe it was the spring of 2018. Whatever happened to that? And I'm going to speak to that in a moment. You have to understand Judge Grimm's ruling in regards to the American Academy of Pediatrics and the Food and Drug Administration. That particular ruling, especially coming out of the declaration from Mitch Zeller, director of the Center for Tobacco Products, in the judge's ruling, it gives the green light to Mitch Zeller to have this potential limited flavor ban. Most likely will happen sometime in August or early part of September of 2019. But I'm sure others, especially Vaping Miniman, is wondering whatever happened to that whole quote-unquote Dr. Farsalinos movement when it came to this potential flavor ban. Well, what happened was it actually stalled in the Office of Management and Budget and hasn't moved from there since. So I want to speak to that. This is out of the Office of Information Regulatory Affairs, Office of Management and Budget, which is right under the United States President, Donald John Trump. It's right under him. And so all these particular regulations go to the president/advisors, might not go to him personally, not all the time, it depends on the issue, but it will go to his advisors in whatever area they work within. And they could either amend it or delete it or stall it or approve of it or give the green light to it. In this particular case, they just stalled it. Now, you have to understand, this came under former Food and Drug Administration Scott Gottlieb, the commissioner. So he's the one who attempted this, and mainly because he's no longer the FDA commissioner, probably one of the main reasons, is it's stalled. So it's not going anywhere. And like I said, the Judge Grimm's ruling gives the power to the FDA to do this limited flavor ban anyway. So they don't really need this anymore. And what happens, and that can happen, it happens a lot of times with the Food and Drug Administration, as well as many other federal agencies, that they do go through the whole comment period, they go through the whole thing, and then it just stalls. Just, in fact, they could actually, the Food and Drug Administration can actually withdraw it. Even after they go through the whole process, they could turn around and withdraw their potential proposed rule. So So I'm going to just read it to you so you know exactly where we're at. So this was RIN 0910-AH060. This is mainly has to do with this up here where the mouse is at. It has nothing to do with the FDA. They just track it with that number. And the publication ID was fall of 2017. And this is when it went before the Office of Management and Budget, went into the Federal Register. Excuse me. And then I'll show you another document, which is when all those comments and everything kicked into place. But anyway, so it's called Kid Appealing Flavors in Tobacco Products, Request for Information. And it says, I know it's small, but if I make it larger, it'll go off the page. So it says, evidence shows that flavored tobacco products, especially those that are sweet or described with terms attractive to kids, appeal to youth, and also shows that youth may be more likely to initiate tobacco use with such products. Evidence also shows that the presence of flavors in some non-combustible tobacco products may play a role in helping some tobacco users transition away from combusted tobacco products, which are likely the most harmful currently marketed form of nicotine delivery for an individual user. This ANPD APRM, or Advance Notice of Proposed Rulemaking, will seek information on how it might regulate flavors in tobacco products to limit appeal to youth while taking into account the potential role that some flavors may play in helping some users transition away from combusted products. Certain flavors are generally recognized as appealing to youth, such as gummy bear and cotton candy, while others, such as coffee and cinnamon, may not be as obvious. In this notice, FDA would request information on how best to regulate flavors in tobacco products to limit appeal to youth and prevent youth initiation and use of tobacco products. So it's coming out of the Department of Health and Human Services, first time published in Unified Agenda. Unified Agenda is all of these particular OMB or Office of Information Regulatory Affairs that go into one whole unified agenda. In fact, as far as the PMTAs and all of that, that actually went into, in general, in regards to vaping even, was in the unified agenda back in 2011. That's beside the point. Priority is other significant agenda stage rulemaking, and this is where it's at. Pre-rule stage, that is, it's just in draft guidances. It hasn't gone to the final rule yet. The Code of Federal Regulation citation not yet determined, so it never went into. Once you get a final rule, it will go into the Code of Federal Regulations. This went into the Federal Register, but it didn't go into the Code of Federal Regulations. You have to understand that they're two separate things. Once it's the final rule, then it goes into the Code of Federal Regulations. When they first get something like this going, like a proposed rule, and they first initiate it, that is the FDA or whatever federal agency, then it goes initially into the Federal Register. To put the Federal Register, what it basically does is it puts the public on notice that this is what the government is doing right now. And the legal authority is 21 United States Code 387G, and that comes out of the Food and Drug Administration's FD&C Act, or Food, Drugs, Cosmetic Act, / the Family Smoking Prevention Tobacco Control Act. And legal deadline, none. So they see they had no deadline. So this advance notice of proposed rulemaking went in November 2017. Flexibility analysis required, undetermined. Federalism, and you see everything there, and then the contact and government levels affected, undetermined. Okay, so, and then they have meetings sometimes, but in this particular case, as you see, no records found, no meetings at all. So that particular thing stole there. And then over here, same thing, Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs, Office of Management and Budget. Then it was in the spring of 2018 when they actually had that comment period go down, okay, with Dr. Farsalinos, etc. I don't have to read this. It's the same thing, just copied and pasted. Still in the pre-rule stage. Previously published in the Unified Agenda, like over here. First published in the Unified Agenda. Previously, it was just talking about the other document. Same thing, legal deadline, none. And the same thing, pretty much the same thing. Okay, so this particular flavor ban, or potential flavor ban, it stalled in the spring of 2018 and didn't move anywhere. Just stayed there. And then what you wound up having, though, is then this thing here. So I've done videos of this already, especially in What Every American Vapor Ought to Know, part 27. But this is the U.S. Food and Drug Administration website. This is the Center for Tobacco Products Connect, March 2019. It's like a newsletter. And if we scroll down the page, it gives like a summary of all the things that are going on. This is what I was speaking to before. Is that it? Here you go. and that is that draft guidance modification to compliance policy for certain deemed tobacco products. And then I did a whole video on this as regards to especially NVR Network and then whatever American Vapor ought to know, part 27. And they're dealing with flavored electronic nicotine delivery systems. Also doing flavored cigars, but mainly ENDS products, which is what we have. And it says, evidence shows that youth are especially attracted to flavored e-cigarette products and that minors are able to access these products from both brick and mortar retailers and online. We also continue to be concerned about cigar use. With these concerns in mind, today we're advancing our policies aimed at preventing youth access to and appeal of flavored e-cigarettes. And then they did the whole draft guidance. This is where the whole we're going to complete this within 120 days, comes out of the Judge Grimm's ruling, and then it's going to become effective 30 days after that final draft guidance is done. Like it says, as detailed in the draft guidance, beginning 30 days after issuance of the final guidance, which will be released at a later date, all flavored ENDS products covered by the new policy would no longer be subject to FDA's enforcement discretion outlined in the current compliance policy. See, all. Now it says all here, okay? So don't get your panties in a wad. It says all flavored. But what came out of Judge Grimm's ruling is most likely it's going to be a limited flavor ban. But in this particular newsletter from these Food and Drug Administration / Center for Tobacco Products, it says all flavored ENDS products covered by the new policy would no longer be subject to FDA's enforcement discretion. In other words, they won't be easy on those particular companies, and they won't use their enforcement discretion, and they'll just come down and wipe out all the entire e-liquid market. But if there's going to probably, like I say in the other video that I did on Matt from SMM or Suck My Mod, I said it's going to be a full or limited flavor ban. Now, the full language, FULL, is coming out of this particular document. But when you read the Judge Grimm's ruling and what Mitch Zeller stated in his declaration to the Judge Grimm, and if you've been keeping up on these videos, that what I just said, you'll understand. It basically will be a limited flavor ban. It could be a full flavor ban, but probably it's going to be a limited flavor ban. And so then, of course, they were back with the August 8th of 2022, of course, with Judge Grimm's ruling. It is May 11th of 2020. Okay, and so it says after the guidance is finalized 30 days after, all manufacturers and retailers would be subject to FDA enforcement for selling flavored ENDS products that lack marketing authorization. So if you don't have any marketing authorization, regardless if it's before August 8, 2016 or after August 8, 2016, they're going to enforce against those particular flavors. Now, like I said, in the Judge Grimm's ruling, probably it's going to be a limited flavor ban. So FDA is proposing to prioritize, and this is what is mainly read inside of Judge Grimm's ruling, is that they're going to prioritize it a certain way. So probably is not going to be a full flavor ban, but probably they're going to be a limited flavor ban. FDA is proposing to prioritize enforcement of the policy by focusing on flavored ENDS products that are offered for sale in ways that pose a greater risk for minors to access the products, and those that are targeted to minors are likely to promote use of ENDS by minors. So they're trying to figure out a way so the youth will not obtain these particular e-liquids or hardware, but mainly e-liquids or flavors And yet at the same time, also, like it says, it's split into two, and those that are targeted to minors are likely to promote use of ends by minors. So it probably is going to be a limited flavor ban, okay, rather than a full flavor ban. And then it says the new draft guidance details FDA's expectation that manufacturers of flavored ends products covered by the new policy, but that remain on the market, submit their, and then it talks about pre-market stuff. And that's where Matt from Suck My Mod got tripped up on. He thinks it has only to do, this particular draft guidance in March of 2019 only had to do with pre-market applications. No, it don't. That's part of it, but the other part is how the youth access these products, and then how the flavors are targeted to minors or likely to promote use of ends by minors. Of course, you know, Matt is a whole other ball game. He only wants to hear what he wants to hear. I guess he doesn't want to alarm his audience, and rightfully so, I guess. But the facts are the facts, and the reality is the reality, and it's a pain in the ass. I understand that, but that's how it goes. That's why I'm trying to, as much as possible on this channel at least, focus you on the PMTAs, because that is what we need to do. We have no other recourse but to do it the PMTAs. There's some big players out there, Five Pawns, Cosmic Fog, Cutwood, whatever have you, Jewel. Jewel will probably have no problem with their product itself, but they're going to have a serious problem with marketing and advertising, and that's part of the PMTA. Environmental impact studies and things of that nature, they are going to have serious problems with that. They will never overcome that. And even though they have billions of dollars, it'll be very, very difficult for them to persuade the FDA to come over to their side. But we'll see. Anything is possible. But you know, it's really a long shot now, especially after that Committee on Oversight and Reform they just did with Monsi's, with Jewel. Anyway, it's beside the point. But the point is yeah, they're going to have a limited flavor ban. Probably not a full flavor ban, though they certainly can have a full flavor ban. That's and the only thing left on the market is tobacco mint, menthol, and they could even do away with mint. Will they go that route? Probably not. Probably not. But they probably will have a limited flavor ban. Now, what that looks like, it's anyone's guess. And they're definitely going to come after brick and mortar, and they're going to come after especially online sales and get certain standards in place, make it much more difficult for the youth to access these particular flavored e-liquids. So I just wanted to put this all in perspective, and so maybe Vaping Man even understands better if he watches this, that this flavor ban, this whole thing that was going on with Dr. Farsalinos, I even participated in that. I got Jay Hayes to let Mike Vapes know, and a lot of people participated in this whole comment period with Dr. Farsalinos. It's stalled. You understand? It's irrelevant now. It doesn't matter. It's never going to move forward, because it's put into this modifications to compliance policy for certain deemed tobacco products, as well as Judge Grimm's order. And Judge Grimm's order, of course, trumps this stuff here and this stuff here. So anyway, it's sort of like a follow-up to the What Every American Vapor Ought to Know Part 27. But I also want to point this out, because I was going through a whole bunch of these particular rules with the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs in regards to vaping, and this so happened to pop up, and I was like, well, so that's what happened to it. It's just stalled. It's just sitting there. I thought it was still moving ahead, but it's not. It's just stalled. It actually just stalled at the Office of Management and Budget, and it's not going anywhere. It's mainly because of this draft guidance, along with Judge Grimm's ruling. It's stalled. Nothing's going to happen with it. That's over. They're going to do. They're going to enforce a quote unquote flavor ban in a limited way without this flavor ban or flavor ban here. The same thing, actually. This is the same thing as this. It's just moving ahead a little bit. Spring 2018, it died. And it can happen. The FDA can withdraw this proposed rule. They can amend it. They can modify it. They could do whatever they like to it. And maybe possibly even they modified it in a way and took all of this, here where the mouse is at, and put it into this and worded it much differently. This could have very well blended into this here. Absolutely. So that's the way the cookie crumbles. What we need to do is we need to focus on the PMTAs and stop with all the excuses. That is the only recourse we have. Congress will not help us. The Food and Drug Administration is not going to appeal this Judge Grimm's ruling. The only thing that we have left in the United States of America and its territories is to face the harsh reality of doing these PMTAs. At least get one e-liquid approved by the FDA and one very slimmed down hardware approved by the FDA, be it either a mod or a tank or a closed system or whatever. Get that approved by the FDA, build up the master files over a period of years, and then whatever is on the market will have that. And as time goes by, other players will get back into the e-liquid as well as the hardware markets through these master files, and it'll build back up. But someone has to step up to the plate, either with the e-liquid or with the hardware, even the software if you're doing DNA and stuff like that, but really forget about the software. It's mainly, and it's not just DNA, by the way, it's upgrades as well. If you upgrade, like if you upgrade your mod, that software is also regulated by the FDA and needs a PMTA on it. So every time a mod gets upgraded, let's say, for instance, you get a VUPU drag through. It's not, the chances of that going through and getting approved by the FDA, it'll cost you over probably $80 million. Okay, that's on the low end. Low end. Probably cost you about $200 million to get the VUPU drag actually approved. Yeah, maybe less, maybe, but around those figures. It's got to be around $100 million to get the VUPU drag. But let's say you get it approved by the FDA, and that includes the software as well. And let's say 6 months after it's approved, VUPU decides to do an upgrade to that particular mod. All they have to do is go. All they have to do is go through an exemption from substantial equivalence, and it's a minor modification, and that would be the end of that. But still, they would have to go through a process to have every single upgrade, if it changes in any way, if they add, I don't know, like if if they add a different resin template to it or whatever, it doesn't matter. Any modification to it will have to have an exemption for substantial equivalence on it. Like an RDA, a perfect example. If they ever got approved, I doubt that very much. In fact, it will never get approved, but that's beside the point. But let's say hypothetically an RDA did get approved and you want to change the drip tip to a different color or whatever, it would have to still go through a exemption from substantial equivalence. It has to go through a process. It has to be approved by the FDA. You can't change one, even if you have red, you want it blue. Believe it or not, you have to get that approved by the FDA. I know it's the same material, but the coloring, the dye that they are using is different than the red one. The blue is different than the red. It's a slight modification, but nevertheless, it needs to be approved by the FDA. So all this stuff has to be approved by the FDA. It's an ongoing relationship with the FDA once your product is approved. But especially a lot of people think, well, I see software, yeah, okay, DNA, but it goes with the upgrades as well. Upgrades or any kind of modification, things of that nature to the software. So anyway, yeah, I'm gonna let you guys go. But yeah, I just wanted to clarify this a little bit more, mainly for Vaping Minutemen, so he understands this a little bit more in depth as to whatever happened to that Dr. Farsalinos comment period thing that we were doing back in 2018. Well, it stalled and turned into, or was added to, or was carried over to this modifications to compliance policy for certain deemed tobacco products, and then eventually it went into Mitch Zeller's declaration as far as the court is concerned, and then of course Judge Grimm's ruling. The key is we must face the fact that the only thing that is left us are PMTAs. We have to face that. I've been saying that for over 3 years now. Over 3 years. But hopefully, a lot of people said, no, we'll have all these other things go on and we don't have to worry about that. Okay. Well, the day of reckoning, so to speak, is here. And we have within 10 months or up to May 11th, 2020 to do these PMTAs. There's got to be one company out there to submit an e-liquid and one company out there to submit some kind of hardware, a closed system, whatever, to build up the master files. The first step right now is to do those PMTAs. The second step, as time goes by, is to build up the master files. And then there will be, retailers and manufacturers and all that come back into play as time moves forward. But definitely the landscape, as far as what we know of, will definitely change drastically. It will do like a 280 or 290. And in fact, probably even a 360. It's going to change completely by May 11th, 2020. And as time goes by after that date, it'll get stranger and stranger and stranger and more difficult to find things that you want online legally. I'm talking, of course. I'm not talking about what you do on the dark web or whatever the hell people are talking about. I'm talking about legally. It will be harder and harder to find it as time goes by. You'll still be able to find it initially after May 11, 2020, as far as legally buying things, but slowly, these will slowly dwindle as time goes by. Anyway, I just want to share this with you, and guys, have a good one. Bye-bye.